The clock strikes 7, it always started at the same time, 7 p.m. sharp. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the row of pine trees at the edge of town, the Thompson household fell into a strange kind of silence. The neighbors never noticed, too busy with dinner or streaming TV, but inside the Thompsons' two-story house, time felt heavier. As if the air itself knew what was coming. Sarah Thompson did. She knew it all too well. She stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, trying to ignore the wall clock above the refrigerator. The second hand ticked like a hammer, louder with every passing beat. 6:59. Her hands trembled on the wooden spoon. She hated this hour, the hour that had nearly broken her family. Her husband, Mark, entered the kitchen, loosening his tie. "It's almost time," he whispered, voice tight. He wasn't asking, he was warning. Sarah nodded. She set down the spoon and glanced toward the living room, where their 8-year-old son, Ethan, sat on the carpet with his Legos. His little lips moved, as if whispering to someone she couldn't see. The first time it happened, Sarah thought he was just playing. Kids have imaginary friends, right? But imaginary friends don't usually whisper back. And they definitely don't scream at exactly 7 p.m. Every night, the wall clock clicked over to 7 o'clock. The lights flickered. Sarah's stomach dropped. "No, no, not again," she muttered. Ethan froze mid-play. His head tilted unnaturally, like someone had grabbed his chin and yanked it sideways. Then, in a voice that was not his own, he said, low and guttural, "He's here." The soup ladle clattered to the floor. Mark grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her back as a cold wind whipped through the kitchen, though every window was shut. The cabinets rattled. The TV in the living room switched on by itself, static filling the air. Ethan's body trembled violently. His tiny fists clenched, and then, like a puppet with its strings cut, he collapsed onto the carpet. Sarah screamed and ran toward him, but before she could reach her son, the static on the TV shifted. The screen went dark, and a shape appeared. A man, or at least, the shadow of one. Tall, thin, standing in the glow of the television, like it was a doorway. "Don't touch him," the shadow said. Its voice came from everywhere at once, through the TV, through the vents, through the walls. "He belongs to me." From 7 until 7:30, Mark yanked Sarah back again, his face pale. "This is the deal," he said under his breath. "We can't interfere." Sarah turned on him, panicked. "Deal? What are you talking about?" Mark's lips tightened. His eyes didn't leave the shadow in the TV. "I never told you," he said, his voice trembling. "But I made a mistake. A long time ago. At 7 p.m., I opened something I shouldn't have." The shadow stepped closer in the screen, its head nearly brushing the top edge of the TV. The lights dimmed, buzzing. And then, the voice again. 30 minutes each night. That was the bargain. But bargains can be broken. Sarah grabbed her son's limp body, sobbing. "What do you want from us?" she cried. The shadow leaned forward, its grin wide and jagged. "I don't want you. I already have him." The clock ticked on. 7:02. The room plunged into darkness, and Ethan began to scream. Ethan's screams tore through the house like broken glass, sharp and endless. Sarah tried to cover her ears, but it didn't matter. The sound wasn't just in the room, it was inside her head. It rattled in her skull, made her teeth ache, made her bones feel hollow. Mark stood frozen, fists clenched at his sides, staring at the TV where the shadow swayed slowly, watching. When the clock struck 7:30, it all stopped. The lights flicked back on. The air warmed. Ethan lay motionless on the floor, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. The TV clicked off with a hiss. Sarah dropped beside her son, shaking him. "Ethan, baby, wake up." He stirred weakly, his eyes fluttering open. But they weren't his eyes. They were too dark, too glassy, like the pupils stretched across the whole iris. And when he smiled, it wasn't Ethan's smile at all. Sarah recoiled. "Mark, what's happening to him?" Mark didn't answer at first. He moved to the liquor cabinet, his hands trembling as he poured a glass of whiskey. He swallowed it in one gulp, then turned to her, defeated. "This started before you," he whispered. "Back when I was 20. Back when I was stupid." Sarah stared, horrified. "What do you mean, before me?" Mark sat heavily on the couch, the glass clutched tight. "It was college. I was broke, desperate. There was this man at least. I thought he was a man. He hung around the old library basement. People said he could make deals, fix your life. I didn't believe it until I saw him make a guy walk again. I thought it was some trick, but it wasn't." Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. "You made a deal with him?" Mark nodded slowly, shame burning in his eyes. "I asked for success, money, a future. And he gave it to me. Every job, every promotion, every good break in my life, it was all him." Sarah's stomach dropped. "And the price?" Mark's gaze flicked toward Ethan, who sat silently now, head tilted, staring at nothing. "At first, it was small things. 1 hour of my time each week. Then 1 day every year. But when Ethan was born, his voice broke. He changed the terms. Said it had to be bloodline, now. Said the boy belonged to him 30 minutes a day, at exactly 7 p.m. Sarah slapped him hard across the face, tears streaming. "You sold our son." Mark didn't defend himself. He just whispered, "I thought I could protect him. I thought I could find a way out before it was too late." Sarah turned back to Ethan, who hadn't moved an inch. His lips moved faintly, whispering words she couldn't hear. She leaned closer. That's when Ethan snapped his head toward her, those black, endless eyes locking on hers. "Daddy didn't tell you everything," the voice inside him rasped. Sarah stumbled backward. Who are you?" The child-sized body rose slowly to its feet, movements jerky, unnatural. "I am what waits. I am what feeds," the voice hissed. "And when the 30 minutes end, I return to the dark. But soon." The thing inside Ethan smiled. "Soon, I won't have to leave." The wall clock ticked loudly, 7:29. Sarah grabbed her son's arms, desperate. "Let him go. Please. Take me instead." The voice chuckled, low and cold. "Too late for that. A bargain made is a bargain kept. But bargains can change." The final second clicked. 7:30. Ethan collapsed again. Eyes closing, breath steady. For now, he was just a boy again. Sarah clutched him tight, shaking, while Mark poured another drink. His hands shaking so badly the glass spilled. She looked up at him, her face pale with fury. "We're ending this. I don't care what you did. I don't care what it takes. I'm not letting that thing take him." Mark didn't answer. He just stared at the clock. Because deep down, he knew the truth deals like his never really end. And tomorrow, at 7 p.m., the nightmare would start all over again. The next morning, Sarah barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard that rasping voice echo inside her skull. "Soon, I won't have to leave." Ethan seemed normal again. He ate his cereal, watched cartoons, even laughed once. But Sarah couldn't shake the memory of those black eyes and that twisted smile. Mark kept pacing, chain-smoking on the back porch. He hadn't gone to work. He hadn't even changed clothes. He just muttered to himself, There's no way out. There's no way out. Sarah finally snapped. Stop saying that. There has to be a way. Mark shook his head. Hollow. You don't understand. That thing isn't human. It doesn't bargain the way we do. If you break the deal, it punishes you. It punishes worse than death. Sarah's jaw tightened. Then we changed the rules. She started researching. Hours on her laptop, phone calls to old professors, rabbit holes on forums filled with conspiracy theories. Most were garbage creepypastas and bored kids writing about Bloody Mary and Slender Man. But buried deep in an occult message board, she found something chilling. A thread titled, "The 7 p.m. Shadow Man, Real." Most replies were jokes. But one user, Obsidiancro77, wrote, "Yes, it's real. The Shadow Man doesn't just feed on time, he feeds on fear. If you stop being afraid, he loses power. If you cut the tether, he'll weaken. But don't ever confront him before the hour ends. If you do, he doesn't just take the child, he takes everything." Sarah stared at the words until her vision blurred. She had a choice. Sit back and let this thing gnaw at her son every night, or take the fight to it. She chose the fight. That night, Sarah prepared. She sprinkled salt along the windowsills and doors, a trick she'd read in half a dozen folklore books. She made Ethan wear a silver chain around his neck. And she kept a Bible in one hand, though she hadn't set foot in a church in years. Mark watched her, pale and shaking. "This won't work," he whispered. Sarah glared. "Doing nothing hasn't worked either." When the clock struck 7 o'clock, the air shifted instantly. The lights flickered, then died. The hum of the fridge cut off. Silence fell over the house like a heavy blanket. Ethan froze in the middle of the living room, his spoon dropping from his hand. His body went rigid, his head tilting unnaturally to the side. "Mommy," he whispered. But it wasn't his voice. It was that voice. The shadows spilled across the walls, tall and faceless, growing wider, darker, filling the corners. Sarah's heart raced, but she raised the Bible, her voice trembling. "You can't have him. I won't let you." The shadow paused, as though amused. Then the voice spoke through Ethan again. "You break the rule." The salt on the windows suddenly scattered into the air, as if blown by a hurricane. The silver chain around Ethan's neck snapped and clattered to the floor. Sarah's breath caught. It didn't work. The shadow surged forward, swallowing half the room in darkness. The clock ticked louder, each second booming in her ears. Sarah grabbed Ethan's hand and screamed, "I'm not afraid of you." For a moment, just a heartbeat, the shadow flickered. The air warmed. The voice hissed, sharp and angry. "Liar." The lights burst, glass raining down. The walls groaned like the house itself was in pain. Ethan was yanked from her grip, thrown across the room as the shadow coiled around him like a snake. Mark lunged forward, but the darkness slammed him into the wall, pinning him there like an insect. The shadow bent Ethan backward, his mouth opening too wide, a scream building in his throat. Sarah ran forward, clutching the Bible to her chest, and hurled herself into the black mass. The cold hit her like falling into ice water. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, but she felt. Whispers slithered into her mind, thousands of voices at once. "Give him, give him, give him." Her heart thundered. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to let go, to surrender. But she clutched Ethan tighter, shaking, shouting into the void. "Take me, instead." For a long, terrible moment, everything went still. The whispers hushed. The shadow pulled back slightly, studying her. Then, for the first time, it laughed. A deep, hollow laugh that rattled through the bones of the house. "You want a new bargain? Then at 7 tomorrow. The shadow's voice curled like smoke, dripping with malice. "I'll take you both." The world snapped back. The lights flickered on. The TV blared static. Ethan collapsed, coughing, sobbing. Mark slid down the wall, gasping for breath. Sarah held her son, shaking uncontrollably. She had tried to fight. She had tried to be brave. And now she had made it worse. The clock read 7:31 p.m. Tomorrow, when the hand struck 7, the shadow wouldn't just come for Ethan. It would come for them all. The day of reckoning came faster than Sarah could bear. Every tick of the clock was a hammer against her chest. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, her body was running only on terror and desperation. Mark looked like a ghost. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. He refused to meet Sarah's eyes, afraid of the truth they both knew. Tonight, there would be no escape. Ethan sat on the couch, quiet as a doll. His skin was pale, lips cracked. He hadn't spoken all day, but every once in a while, his eyes darted to the clock on the wall. He knew. Sarah clutched her son's hand, whispering, "We'll get through this. I promise." But her voice cracked on the last word. Promises felt useless now. By 6:30, the house was suffocating with silence. Sarah lit candles in every room, their flames quivering as though afraid. She drew protective symbols on the walls with chalk she found in Ethan's art box. Mark muttered, "This won't hold. Nothing holds against it." Sarah spun on him, her voice sharp. "Then tell me, what does? You've been terrified for days, and you never told me why. What aren't you saying?" Mark froze. His eyes brimmed with tears. "When I was 12, it came for me," he whispered. "I saw it. Every night, at 7. My mom. She gave herself up so I could live. But the shadow doesn't let go. It circles back. Always." Sarah's stomach twisted. So Ethan, he wasn't the first. Mark nodded, his voice breaking. "It's a curse. A bloodline curse." The air grew colder, like ice crawling under the skin. The shadows in the corners stretched longer, darker. The clock ticked closer. 6:59. Sarah grabbed Ethan, holding him tight. "Then tonight, it ends. No more running. No more bargains." The moment the clock struck 7 p.m., the house roared alive. Lights shattered. The floorboards trembled. The shadows bled across the walls, writhing like serpents. The voice slithered through the air, booming in every corner. 2 souls. A promise made. Tonight, take them both. Ethan whimpered, clinging to Sarah's shirt. Mark stumbled backward, clutching his chest, his breath ragged. The black figure unfolded from the wall, tall, faceless, endless. The shadow man. Sarah forced her trembling legs forward, stepping between Ethan and the thing that wanted him. She shouted over the chaos, "You won't take my son. You hear me? You'll have to go through me." The shadow tilted its head, studying her. Then, with a voice that rattled the windows, it whispered, "That was the deal." It lunged. The room collapsed into darkness. Sarah felt Ethan ripped from her arms again. She screamed, thrashing, clawing at the void. But this time, she wasn't paralyzed by fear. She remembered the words she'd read on that occult forum. If you stop being afraid, he loses power. So she forced it. Every ounce of terror, every scream building inside her chest, she crushed it. She thought only of Ethan, his laughter, his smile, the way he used to run barefoot through the sprinklers. Her voice cut through the void, trembling but defiant. "I'm not afraid of you." The darkness shuddered. The shadow recoiled. Just for a second, Mark, pinned against the wall, gasped. "Keep going. Don't let it feed." Sarah's nails dug into her palms as she roared into the abyss. "You nothing. You can't have him." Ethan fell to the floor, coughing, free for a heartbeat. Sarah lunged, grabbing him. The shadow surged again, furious, tendrils whipping through the room like knives. Mark stumbled forward, blood running from his mouth. He shoved Sarah and Ethan toward the door, screaming, "Go, now, no." Mark, but he didn't listen. His eyes locked on the faceless figure, a tear sliding down his cheek. "It started with me. It ends with me." Before Sarah could stop him, Mark stepped into the darkness willingly. The shadow froze. It wrapped around him like smoke, pulling him into its body. His scream cut the air like glass and then was silenced. For the first time, the shadow hesitated, and then it vanished. The darkness snapped out of the room like a blown candle. The air warmed. The clock ticked 7:01 p.m. Sarah collapsed, clutching Ethan to her chest, both of them shaking. The house was still. The nightmare was over. Or so she thought. 3 days later, Sarah and Ethan moved out. She couldn't stand the house anymore, couldn't even walk past 7 o'clock without breaking into a sweat. But that night, in their new apartment, Sarah tucked Ethan into bed. She kissed his forehead, whispering, "You're safe now." As she turned off the light, Ethan's small voice stopped her. "Mommy, Daddy says hi." Sarah froze. Slowly, she turned. Ethan's eyes gleamed black in the dark. His lips curled into a smile, far too wide for his face. The clock on the nightstand ticked.